Alrighty, grade eights. Welcome back to the second part. Sorry about that first one getting cut off. There's some technical difficulties, but so now you get the idea with the terms. Like for example, you now know what a face is, an edge is, and a vertex. Correct? Now watch this cool website I found. Faces. Watch this. I hover over this face, and it tells me for this shape here, there's 5 faces. Now watch what happens with vertices over here. They turn into this cool little points, and it tells me that there's 6 vertices. And then edges are where 3 or more faces meet, and it tells me there's 9. This is a cool little website. I can slow it down, spin it however I want. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this right now. Now, this right here, this shape, is called a triangular prism. Now, what I have trouble understanding is why is it a prism? Why is it not a pyramid? Why is it called a triangular prism? And basically, the rule is when you put it on its base, whatever shape it is that it sits on the base, that's the way you name it. So what I mean by that sounds confusing, but basically what I mean is I was confused myself at first because I looked at this shape and I'm like, well, I could put it. The base could be anything. I could set it on this side so it rotates like this. I could rotate it over so it's on that flat side. And I was having trouble understanding. Well, basically, if it has a flat side, wouldn't that be a base? And so I had to go and look at that a bit more. Now, take a look over here. This is the three-dimensional shape. Now, remember, if you take a two-dimensional net and fold it up into three-dimensional shape, here's the net. So this red shape here, unfolded, looks like this. And right here is the key to answering why it's called a triangular prism. Now, if you notice, how many shapes make up this net here? There's 1, 2, 3 squares, and there's 2 triangles. Now, in a prism, what will happen is the 2 congruent shapes, so in this case, congruent means the same size and shape, the triangles here. So that tells me if there's 2 identical shapes and the rest are rectangles or cubes or whatever, that it's a prism. And that's the shape of the 2 identical shapes, the congruent shapes here, that's the way I name it. So these are triangles. So what we'd say is it is a triangular prism. Okay? Watch. So when you have 2 shapes that are congruent, they fold up, and we put them, so really the base we're saying is the triangle side. So this is how it would look if we put this right here. I'm trying to spin it. If we spin it right there, it's kind of spinning on its base right now. All right, let's look at a different shape. So right here, this is a prism as well. And if you look at the net when it unfolds, okay, how many shapes make up this net? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. 7 shapes total make up the net. But there are 2 that are identical. This one right here and this one right here. So we know when there's 2 identical shapes, we can call it a prism. Now, what kind of prism is it? Well, these shapes right here, how many sides to it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hopefully you've learned in your previous math lessons that a 5-sided object is called a pentagon. So this will be a pentagonal prism. And so when I put it together, right now it's floating on its base. Okay, so either one of these could be the base, that side or that side. So does that make sense as to why something is a prism? Let's take a look at this. See if you could name this. So here's our shape. It's all about the net. We got to take a look at the net and see what the net's doing here. So I wait for it to unfold. Boom. Okay, so take a look. How many pieces, how many shapes make up this this net? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there. But there's 2 identical. There's only 2 shapes that are identical. This one and this one. They're congruent. How many sides to it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I know that an 8-sided object is called an octagon. So this is an example of an octagonal prism. All right, so if I were to move this around, if I can flip it, There you go. Right there. We're spinning it on its base. Everybody see that? So that would be the base there. So hopefully that tells you how to identify what a prism is. Let's take a look and see what's the difference between a prism then and a pyramid. All right. So let's take a look. Right here we have, let's use this one. This one's easier. Okay, this shape right here. This is an example of a pyramid. Now, what's the obvious thing that jumps out at you when you think of a pyramid? It all comes to a point, right? Well, how do we prove that it is a pyramid and not a prism? Let's look at the net when it's unfolded. Okay, I can see that this net is made up of 5 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 triangles and 1 square. Do I see any 2 congruent shapes that make up the net? No. And remember, we need 2 congruent shapes to form our bases of a prism. So if you only have one shape by itself surrounded by all these different triangles, then it's a pyramid. How do you name the pyramid? It's quite simple. It depends on the shape of the base. What is the base? The base is the one shape by itself. In this case, I thought it was a cube, but they're telling us it's a rectangular pyramid. So that means one of these sides must be longer than the other ones. Let's look at another shape. Okay, whoa. We'll play it. So look at this shape. Do they come up and meet in a point? Yes. So that tells us right now, when they come up and meet a pyramid, or a point, that it's a pyramid. Now, take a look at this. Let's name it, though. That's the tough part. Let's name the pyramid. We can't just call it a pyramid. We've got to be more scientific than that. So let's look. It's made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles. But in the middle here, there's a shape, and there's only one of them. So that has to be our base. How many sides to the shape? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 sides. And we learned just 2 minutes ago when I was talking that a 5-sided shape is called a pentagon. So this would be called a pentagonal pyramid. And see when it folds up. So right there, does that help you understand the difference between a prism and a pyramid? And then how you name said pyramid or prism? Hopefully that helps out. Sorry. All right. Welcome back, grade 8s. I had a pause there. So look at this question. It says, which diagram is a net for this right square prism? I give you 3 examples here. Here's A, B, and C. Only one of these is the correct answer. So let's use what we just learned and realize we are looking for a square prism. Well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. That might be it. Look at this net. Oh, there's 4 rectangles and 2 identical congruent squares. Okay. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 rectangles. Okay. Well, what jumps out at us right off the bat? Which one definitely isn't one of these? Well, obviously, net C is not a square prism because there is no squares. It's made up of 6 rectangles. So that one's out. So now it's between B and A. And remember, only one of these is the right answer. So we're looking for a prism. Definition of a prism: two identical congruent sides surrounded by either some rectangles here, same size rectangles. So in this case, it would have to be B. Okay. Right. I'm going to show you one last thing here. I apologize for talking so long. I'm so excited to give you guys another math video. I'm just going to talk about one thing in the toolbox over here. So if you could open up the toolbox and go to Nets and 3D Measurements, I'll talk about it in the next video with you. Thanks a lot.